Welcome back to part 2 of me building a custom Sam Wilson as Captain America action figure. Alright, so where we last left off, and to refresh your memory, I'm making a custom Sam Wilson dressed in his new Captain America outfit. These are the two figures I'm using for the base materials. For the body, I decided to go with the Avengers Mech Strike Captain America. This is a budget figure, runs roughly around $9. I purchased this at Walmart. The budget figures stand shorter than the Marvel Legends. They're at about 5.5 inches tall. And for the head, I took the head from Avengers Infinity War Falcon figure. That bears the likeness of actor Anthony Mackie, and this too was a budget figure. This might be harder for you to come by. It was released, I believe, 2016 or 2017, so it's already about like maybe 4 years old. This is a budget figure also, very limited range of articulation, and this falls about 5.5 inches tall. So yeah, I took this figure, removed the head, and swapped on this head. One of the challenges is that this head has a larger ball joint than this one, and the neck is even much longer. So when I sat the Falcon head on top of this body, it was too high. So in order to remedy that, I had to cut the ball joint off of this head and replace it with a screw, and then mount it on what was remaining of the neck, and that head fit perfectly onto it. And from there, the next step was to prime the figure and paint it. Also, I took the backpack and the Falcon wings from this figure and mounted it onto the back of the new body. There was the challenge of the holes. These holes here for their backs are different sizes. This one's almost a full circle. This one's kind of more like, I don't know, hexagonal in shape. So what I had to do is I had to drill this out to fit the peg of this backpack and mount it onto there. So what does the completed figure look like? Alright, so I present to you my custom Sam Wilson as the new Captain America, as seen, or not as seen in Falcon and Winter Soldier. This is more so my interpretation of that character. As I stated in my previous video, I didn't want to go for a one-to-one accurate representation of how it looked on the TV show, because for one, the base body I was using was completely different, and number two, I think part of me, I just kind of, inject my own spin on the character just a little bit. So here we go. Here is my custom Sam Wilson as the new Captain America. So I used Mech Strike as the base body. As you can see here, the head works fine. Color-wise, I didn't want to mimic the color scheme of the show completely. I really liked. All right, so with the new TV show, I kind of wanted to pull back on the white a lot, because the new costume has a lot of white on the uniform. You have the white on the top of his torso, the white on his upper arms, the white on his arms. There's white on the edges of the top of his wings. His boots are red and silver. And for me, I wanted to tone it down a little. Not that I wanted to give it a more stealth look, but I kind of wanted to mute it down a couple of levels. I didn't want it to feel too loud. So I was kind of selective about where I placed my colors. Number one, I was worried about joint rub, and as I talked before, joint rub is when you paint, when you apply paint to a part of the figure, and then once you start moving stuff around, because of friction or the pieces hitting each other, paint's going to rub off. So my number one priority in trying to figure out where I wanted to put paint is try to avoid paint rub as much as possible. So I avoided putting paint on the upper part of the arms because when you move this up, it kind of rubs a little on his armor pieces, and the last thing I wanted was to mar the paint. So I told myself, okay, I could lose that, but I really needed the white paint on his neck and his upper chest, just because here it kind of goes up and cuts into his head wrap. So let's take a look at this a little bit closer. So here's a comparison. I added some silver on the belt buckle, like in the TV show. He has a silver belt buckle. This one is a budget figure, so the paint application is very minimum. Gave him some white and red stripes along his abdomen. This one just had silver stripes. This almost resembles more like the stealth suit that Cap wore in the second Captain America movie, when he's fighting like George St. Pierre. Added some white on his biceps. I think this almost, I want to say it might be a little bit a callback to classic Captain America. And I was really torn also because, you know, I was thinking to myself, do I want to add red to the boots and the gloves? I really liked how this looks. It's subtle and it just feels more authoritative. I love the new Captain America outfit that they debuted on the show, but there's so much white on it. And I know that's almost kind of true to the original comic book design, but for me, every time I look at it, my first thought is it looks like Evel Knievel. And it feels more like a branding stunt than like, you know, a uniform to be taken seriously. So I kind of like the black. And with the black on his goggles, I kind of felt that it kind of just pulls it all back together. One thing I noticed too is that, so after I was done painting this, so, you know, what I did is I applied a primer onto the plastic, and then I painted over the primer. After I did that, I applied a Krylon matte finish, and then what that does is that takes the glossiness of the paint and kind of like removes the glossiness, so it's not as reflective. And as you can see here, you know, this is getting a lot of reflection off the light. That's why I get all these kind of like highlights, like right there. And what spraying the matte finish does, it dulls the plastic a little, and you don't get that reflectiveness. And after I sprayed the matte finish on here, it almost changed the value of the blue, in a good way, of course. It kind of flattened it down a little. The details became a little bit more pronounced, a little bit more crisper. And for me, it looked like a cleaner finish and less of a bargain toy once you remove kind of this reflective nature of the plastic. And for the show's wings, on the television show, the wings, there's a lot of blue on the feathers. I kind of kept these the same colors as the Falcon wings because I kind of wanted to still maintain that red, white, and blue motif of Captain America and of Americana and the flag. And I kind of felt if I colored this blue, he'd become too much blue, and I needed that balance of red still, so I kind of wanted to keep that there. And as we look at the backpack fit okay. There was the issue of this hole being too small, so the peg was too big, so I couldn't plug it in. So I had to drill this out a little bit larger. At first, I went with a drill bit the size, I think it was like 11/64 size drill bit. And after I drilled it out, the hole was still too small. So I went one drill bit up, and for me in my set that was 3/16, which was a hair too big. And then once you put the backpack on, it wasn't snug at all. It was very loose fitting. It wouldn't stay to fall off. So at that point, I was like, you know what? Let's just super glue it and let it cure for maybe 15 hours. And I did that. I left the backpack bare also, because in all honesty, there was a part of me that at the time I was kind of wondering whether or not I wanted to glue it on permanently, because I was kind of considering, still being able to use this figure as a Falcon and then being able to swap the backpack back and forth. But I decided to glue it and just commit to it. And it looks great. The wings still maintain their function. They still go down, and it looks amazing when the wings down. As I stated in my review of this action figure, when the wings are down, it looks really cool. It almost looks like his wings are kind of like attached to his forearms, and he's just preparing for flight mode, or he's just chilling and hanging out. The shield, the original shield for Mech Strike Captain America is this one. It looks like a toy shield. The kind of plastic. It looks cool. I love this design a lot. Very high tech looking. And I could work with this guy because he still retains the socket in his forearm where this could plug in. So if I wanted to, I could still plug this shield into here. And he looks like that with the shield, which is a really cool look, I think. But I kind of wanted to stick with the tried and true shield. So I grabbed I have so many Captain America figures that, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you will have this issue too. You just have so many shields, and sometimes I lose track of which shield goes to which figure. But they use the same shield for a lot of them. I opted with the design that had, I didn't want to use the shield with the C-clip. Instead, I went with the one with the straps. The strap here, the gap's big enough that it could fit onto his forearm. And if I push it up far enough, I could actually have the fist grasp it. But that's, for now it looks cool like that. Yeah, so this was a fun project. I did this all in one night. I didn't want to do anything that I was going to spend multiple days on. I kind of wanted to get the 2-part video done as fast as possible. Yeah, I like this character design a lot. I love Sam Wilson, the new TV show. I mean, I've always liked Falcon in the movies. Great character. Anthony Mackie does such a brilliant job with it. Here's the Marvel Legends one, just to give you a comparison. This is, I believe this came, the Marvel Legends 2-pack that came with Bucky, I think, if I remember correctly. And I think height-wise, there's still this Cap figure, it almost seems like a little bit, seems like it's like just like 2 or 3% larger than the other Mech Strike figures, which kind of plays in its favor, but it works. So you have the transition of this Falcon into Captain America. Yeah, so if you're new to customizing, one thing I would suggest is that for your first custom, select something that's not too ambitious, something that's within reason. Select something that you know that you're really going to enjoy doing. You don't want to do a figure that or character that you're not really interested in and realize that you don't want to make it anymore, because these take time, depending on how much effort you want to put into it and the results you want to achieve. And in terms of the difficulty level, for me, the nice thing was that there wasn't as much work involved as there could have been. I made sure to select a figure that I'd be able to find another figure to use as the base, and realize that, like for example, the first time I saw this Captain America, my thoughts were if I took the head off, the body would make an excellent base to making Sam Wilson as Captain America. And just looking at it, I knew I wouldn't have to do as many modifications. The big thing would be the swapping out the head, because everything else with the costume would fit really well. So when you do a custom and you're starting off with your first custom, select a figure and make sure that the base figure is something that's going to require very little work. You don't want to pick something that's going to need a lot of heavy modifying, like anything that involves maybe like drilling or cutting plastic. You want to kind of stay away from that stuff until you get to a point where you feel comfortable working with those tools, or more importantly, where it's safe for you to use those tools. If you're younger, you definitely stay away from power tools and things you've never used before because it can be kind of dangerous. And with the early customs, you can play around with like doing repaints. Like for example, you could buy yourself an Iron Man figure and give them a different color scheme. That's all your own. Maybe change out his color so it's not red and gold anymore. Maybe make it, maybe like dark blue and silver. In terms of modifications, it might be something as simple as swapping out a head, or if depending on if it's compatible, maybe swapping out an elbow or a forearm. Just examine the action figures. Notice where the breaks are, when the joints are. For example, for some action figures, you can separate the arms at the elbows. Just submerge it in hot boiling water. Not super hot because you don't want to burn or scald yourself, but hot enough where it'll soften the plastic, and these normally just pop right out. And what you'll find sometimes is that certain figures, they might share the same size peg, so you might be able to swap arms between action figures, or you might be able to swap like lower legs. You might be able to swap heads. So just use your imagination, work within reason, consult the internet. There's so many resources and tutorials on customizing action figures, painting model kits. Draw your inspiration from what you love, whether it be the movies, the TV shows, the comic books, or the video games. And it's a great experience. Let me show you something real quick. All right, so I've been customizing action figures for a very long time. I started probably when I was maybe 13 or 14. I was at my local comic book shop, and in the display case, they had someone made a custom Lobo action figure, and it just fascinated the hell out of me. They took I think it was a DC Superpowers figure, and using putty and epoxy, and they repainted it. They were able to sculpt out and make a Lobo action figure. And then ever since then, I'd wanted to make my own figures, and I'd try to figure out what figures to use as a base, and try to figure out how to sculpt new details in it or glue new details. So it's something I pursued when I was really young, and I had a blast doing it. And even now, up until this day, I still make the occasional custom. But this is something very special. So way back when, we're looking at, I'll probably talk about this in a separate video, but I just want to show you real quick. So way back when, back in 1992, there was a publication called Wizard. It was aimed at the comic book fandom. It was really popular for a long, long time. And even to this day, their footmark still kind of could be felt, because there's the Wizard World conventions. So if you've ever gone to a Wizard World show, the origin of it was actually this magazine that was published by Jared Shamus. The magazine became so big, they started their own conventions. I believe the first few were in New York and Chicago. And eventually they just took it to the road, and they became nationwide and became a huge thing. So this was their first special edition. This wasn't one of their monthly magazines. This was a special edition. I think it was to commemorate Image Comics. And they had this huge gatefold cover with all the different Image characters. Some of you, if you're old enough, you might remember this. Well, in an issue of Wizard magazine, they asked people to send submissions of their custom action figures, and I did that. And I have two figures showcased in here. I have a Shatterstar figure, and I made that from a Toy Biz Daredevil. I lost this action figure. I think I might have actually thrown it away. I don't know where it is. And I also had a Bishop X-Men action figure that I made from a Terminator figure. I think I was the only artist in here who had two figures showcased in the magazine. But yeah, as you can see here, people made customs. Making customs isn't a new thing. People have been doing it forever. And you have people making custom action figures from all sorts of different things. And it's awesome. It's a fun hobby. If you have any interest in it, try it out. You might like it. So I'll probably talk about this in a future video. Alright, so yeah, in closing, here's my Falcon. Now, the new Captain America. Um, so thanks again for checking out my video. I greatly appreciate it. I hope there's something to be learned from this. If you have any interest in customizing, don't be afraid to, search out the internet to get some inspiration. Maybe do some image searches, or even just comment below. And if you need to bounce off any ideas, I could be of help, or just whatever. So I hope you have an excellent day, and thank you again for checking out my videos. And I'll see you again soon. Take care.